We got a lot to cover in this one. Hello, everybody. This is Global Warming Skeptic with another episode of The Young Turks is Exposed, episode number 17. Today, we're gonna go over some egregious scientific ignorance from the Young Turks about the Big Bang Theory and about thermodynamics. People who sit there and talk about science but understand nothing about it. Now they're attacking, may I add, Dr. Ben Carson, a reasonably educated man. He's no astrophysicist, neither am I, neither are they. But it's reasonable to say that a few people with degrees in political science are going to be a little bit ignorant compared to an MD. So let's play Ben Carson's comments, and then we're going to listen to some of their responses, and I will comment accordingly.
About the Big Bang Theory.
Now, what about the Big Bang Theory? I find the Big Bang really quite fascinating. I mean, here you have all these highfalutin scientists, and they're saying that there was this gigantic explosion and everything came into perfect order. Now, these are the same scientists who go around touting the second law of thermodynamics, which is entropy, which says that things move toward a state of disorganization. So now you're going to have this big explosion and everything becomes perfectly organized. And when you ask them about it, they say, well, we can explain this based on probability theory. Because if there's enough big explosions over a long enough period of time, over billions and billions of years, one of them will be the perfect explosion. And I say, so what you're telling me is if I blow a hurricane through a junkyard enough times, over billions and billions of years, eventually after one of those hurricanes, there'll be a 747 fully loaded and ready to fly. Well, but I mean, it's even more ridiculous than that because our solar system, not to mention the universe outside of that, is extraordinarily well organized to the point where we can predict 70 years away when a comet is coming. Now, that type of organization to just come out of an explosion, I mean, you want to talk about fairy tales. That is amazing.
That was a
Now, before we get into the Young Turks' comments, I do want to say a little bit of something. I think Dr. Ben Carson, he a little bit oversimplified the Big Bang model. There are other models, such, the one he's describing is called, it's all possible histories. I don't know the formal term for it, but it's basically all possible histories can be and are realized, either parallel to our current time or in an infinite amount of time. And that would explain this. There's more um, models than that. But rather than using potential areas of attack or questioning on Dr. Ben Carson, here's what you get. Let's roll some of this and we'll comment as it goes.
amazing.
So when you're a neurosurgeon, and a very famous one at that, well before he ran for president, it's amazing that you could call people highfalutin scientists.
I know. You have lost when you say highfalutin.
Yeah, I mean, on that phrase alone, please stop, please stop, please stop, right? So I'm actually, the funny thing is though, we're going to get to his views on that.
Yeah, just a little comment. What he means by highfalutin scientists just means simply that scientists that go based on their own merit, they'll come up with wild theories that don't necessarily add up to observation. That is what he's talking about here. But apparently you're a little bit clueless of what he means. So, as usual, dumbassery from the Young Turks. Let's move on.
Evolution, which I find far more offensive, ridiculous, and amusing. On the Big Bang, look, I think the Big Bang's it's more of it's a newer theory. It's harder for people to wrap their minds around it. And so this whole 747 thing is nonsense. That's not what they're.
Okay, first of all, the Big Bang Theory is not a new theory. It is a gradual recognition of the most likely initial state of the universe. It has changed over the years, but the Big Bang model has been around for at least 100 years and possibly more.
Talking about that's not the right analogy, etc. But I'm not freaked out that a Republican presidential candidate or someone who might be president of the United States doesn't believe in the Big Bang. I'm positive George W. Bush didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
So far, I'm not blown away, if you will.
I am blown away, not that he doesn't believe in it, but that if he's going to state why he doesn't believe in it, that he shows how little he knows about the Big Bang and about the second law of thermodynamics there. I'm going to try to be fast because there's like 30 things I want to criticize here. I'm not going to do that, but yesterday we talked about how Donald Trump had inaccurately used the talking point that in the 1920s there was this global cooling thing when it was actually in the 1970s. Here you see Ben Carson inaccurately using what is known as Hoyle's fallacy or the junkyard tornado idea, not the fucking hurricane. And first of all, yes, if infinite, limitless hurricanes went through a junkyard, yes, you would get a 747. Eventually, that's what infinite
Assuming the
means.
parts of a 747 happen to be in that junkyard.
Even if they weren't, you'd get something like it. Other things, he says that you could know where a comet's gonna go. Have an explosion happens, then you know where something's gonna go. Does he know how a fucking gun works? That's what a gun is. Something explodes, we know it's gonna go out of that tube.
Okay, first of all, the gun is a propellant. It's not a random explosion. With a gun, you have a carefully controlled explosion where the bullet can only go out one way. If you put the bullet at the center of an explosion without the barrel of a gun, you're not going to predict in which direction that bullet will fly, if it will fly in any direction.
And yes, if you see a comet somewhere, there's no gravity acting on it, no inertia acting on it, it's just going to continue in a straight line. It has a long way to go. Yes, over 70 years we know where it's going to go. That has nothing to do with the Big Bang. That has everything to do with all that physics is.
So, John, I count.
So gravity is not acting on comets, John? Is that what you seriously just said? Let's rewind this and let's listen to it.
It has a long way to go. Acting on it, we know it's going to go out of that tube. Does he know how to fucking go? Yes, if you see a comet somewhere, there's no gravity acting on it, no inertia acting on it, it's just going to continue in a straight line. It has a long way to go. Yes.
Okay. So here we have John touting all this science, and he says, quote, there's no gravity, there's no inertia acting on it, it's just going to go in a straight line. No, John, that's not how comets work. Comets are in highly elliptical orbits, normally out of the central plane of the planetary orbits. They orbit extremely far. They do not go in straight lines. They are just highly elliptical and highly eccentric. So, don't sit there and act like you know what science is, buddy. Study it first.
Over 70 years, we know where it's going to go. That has nothing to do with the Big Bang. That has everything to do with all that physics is.
So, John, I counter with this. The tides go in, tides go out.
They do.
You can't explain that.
I can't explain that, but let me quickly try to explain one or two more things. One thing about everything it becomes disorganized because of entropy. Generally, in terms of energy, yes, it does lead to disorganization or entropy. It doesn't mean that if intelligent beings act on matter, they can't make it look more organized. They're not talking about all of, like the spines of your books all facing in one direction when they talk about organization. It has nothing to do with that. He has no idea what the second law of thermodynamics actually.
Oh boy, John, where do I even start? Well, I guess I could just teach you what the second law of thermodynamics is. Here's what it is, basically. The second law of thermodynamics means that all energy will seek a state of equilibrium. That is, disorganization, or rather, perfect organization, will increase over time. So that, say, you have the hot system here and the cold system here, given enough time, this system will become perfectly uniform. There will be no usable energy that can be obtained from it because everything will be equal. There's nothing, there's no transfer left. And that is exactly what the solar system operates on. The solar system operates on transfers of energy. Like, you're constantly seeing mass transferring into energy, perhaps at the quantum level, energy converting into mass. You also see that in particle accelerators, where relativistic masses will collide and they will create extremely massive particles. That is how they're able to use the Large Hadron Collider to detect particles. Because, number one, it's extremely massive particles colliding, so you have a lot more action. And number two, the time slows down enough to where these particles can be detected. They're energy signatures. And so what he's talking about with the Big Bang is you have an explosion of energy that should be extremely high in entropy, but it is not. It's called the low entropy condition, and that is what the current theory of inflation states, is that the universe started out with a low level of entropy. It is one of the great mysteries of science. And all this talk about spines of notebooks aligning, I don't even think you understand what you're talking about, buddy, because you're not even going in the Big Bang territory. You're talking about what humans are creating, which has nothing to do with the second law of thermodynamics.
Means, or about how the Big Bang Theory actually happened. It has nothing to do with immediately everything was organized. No scientist has.
He never said that everything immediately was organized. But again, it was a low entropy condition at the start of the Big Bang. So, in terms of entropy, everything was organized. And in fact, everything became perfectly organized. Not just organized, mind you, organized and fine-tuned for life. You could read the literature of Dr. Penrose on that one, a former associate of Stephen Hawking, who calculated the probability of a universe which could contain life.
Ever said that about the Big Bang Theory. And so if you're going to make a scientific case, which he's trying to make here, that the Big Bang Theory did not actually work, you should learn something about it before you do that.
Yes, John, but I counter with. So, okay, I'm going to call that one even.
We'll call it a tie.
I could almost end the video right there. That's just a little bit insane. See, Jank, at least he doesn't pretend he knows. He pretty much acts like a dumbass right there, and pretty much, yeah. Let's listen. Let's see if we can find something else. This is all I listened to on my first go. Made this video. We'll see if there's anything else.
Comments go in, comments go out. You can't explain that. We got one more.
We
now.
do, though. Let's listen
worse.
to him on the theory of evolution.
I personally believe that this theory that Darwin came up with was something that was encouraged by the adversary. And it has become what is scientifically, politically correct. Amazingly, there are a significant number of scientists who do not believe it, but they're afraid to say anything.
Okay, well, now we've fully entered cuckoo land. Okay. So it's amazing to me that, let alone a Republican candidate for president, I guess we're kind of used to them being crazy, but a really successful neurosurgeon could believe those things and never pick a suit that fits. Those things amaze me. He has the most ill-fitting suits I've ever seen. Anyway, all right.
The adversary messes with his closet.
I think that's what's happening. No, but that you nailed it. That's my favorite part. The adversary.
Oh, God.
Come on, dude. Look, this guy's, he could be president of the United States of America. He's right now number 2 in the polls, okay? In the Republican field, the Republicans in any given election will, at a bare minimum, have a 40% chance of winning.
Yeah.
So there, but for the grace of entropy, goes the next president of the United States, the most powerful man on earth, and he thinks Satan put Charles Darwin up to it to come up with a theory that explains things really well on this planet to trick us.
That's how tricky he is.
Okay, and well, that.
Yeah, you got a bunch of laughing goofballs versus Dr. Ben Carson. I think we've learned our lesson here, folks. Don't trust the Young Turks, especially for your science. Thanks for listening. God bless.